Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken a fairly heavy object, this is copper, and I filed the top right here, and I filed it over here so that I could show you a couple different things. What I want to show you, now I put this in my third hand, and I like to have a little bit of pressure on it so it stays nice and secure right here. So what I'm going to do is show you how to solder something that's much smaller onto a big object. And so the first thing I'm going to do is we need to heat up the bigger object here. We need to add flux to the areas that we're going to be soldering. And then what I have is I have hard solder here, hard silver solder, medium silver solder, and then some little pieces here. And so I'm going to start with the hard solder. And you always want to have more than just, you want to have several pieces of solder in case they roll off. So I'm going to set that right up on top of there. We're going to heat that up. Now it's going to take quite a bit of heat. There, once it starts to flow, I'm going to hang up the torch. I'm going to take a little bit of flux and put it on the bottom of this bale. Then we're going to try and get it in the camera here. Flow that flux on the bale. And I'm a little shaky today, but I'm going to heat this up. I'm going to place the bale right down on top of there. Heating mostly the big piece and a little bit of the bale. So once you do that, then you want to check it. You want to make sure that it's straight. And it's perfect, I'd say. So now the next thing we'll do, take our same tweezer and we're going to flip this over and find the other place that I filed. And now you could actually take your tweezer and put it on as a heat sink. So we're going to add just a little bit more flux to this area. Just like that. And now I'm going to jump down to the medium solder. We don't need much because this is just going to be a jump ring. So we're going to heat that up. Once it flows, then we move on. And so on the jump ring, what I did is I took a file, and there's a seam in the jump ring. So we want the seam to be down, and I filed the bottom of the jump ring. And so I'm going to take flux and flux that bottom part. So this is a very tiny jump ring, and I have it in a pair of locking tweezers. Like I say, I'm a little shaky today, so things like this are a little bit harder. So you want to heat up the big object. Keep an eye on that solder. When it looks like it's starting to flow, we set the jump ring down onto the solder, and now it's soldered. So now you want to check to make sure these aren't too hot. Turn it over, make sure that both sides are soldered. And so the next thing I'm going to do, see if I can do this. I have a little bale here. I'm going to find a pair of tweezers. Let's see, a pair of pliers. Okay. So now I have this bail, I have this bail, and it has a jump ring on there, and I'm going to hook it through. Now that's getting hot, so I got to grab this with a pair of tweezers, and we need to close that jump ring, and it must be flush against the bail. You can't have a gap. So once we do that, then what we do is we take our third hand, which is, I don't know if you can see this, the third hand is, it's bent. So now what I got to do is I got to grab it with a pair of tweezers or pliers, and I got to bend it so that it closes at the end. Now you're getting to see all sorts of things here. So we got our tweezers. We're going to put that in like that. And we're going to grab it right where I soldered that on. Okay. So we have a heat sink on that jump ring. And now what we have to do is there's a seam right there. And now that seam needs to be soldered. And I'll tell you, being a little bit shaky, this is a little harder. So now we're going to reduce our flame. And so what I need to do now is take the little solder I have here. Just need a tiny little piece. Now we need to set that right on our seam. Take another pair of tweezers, drop it in my lap. Okay, it's good to have a lot of tweezers around. So I'm going to grab this bail. And we solder that little seam. And so now we have a little jump ring with another bail attached to it. And I did this all using hard solder for the big bail. I used medium solder for the jump ring, and then I used medium solder again to solder the other jump ring. And so hopefully this will help you in the future when you try and do this. All right, I guess that's it. Thank you.